So we are only 4 days into the IndyCar offseason, and the IndyCar world has already been rocked by a major scandal. Bobby Rahal blocked me on Twitter. What the heck, dude? I've never done anything to you. I've never said anything bad about you. I mean, in fact, I've probably pulled some punches. I mean, come on, dude. Like what? Oh, that's not the Rahal scandal you wanted to hear about? Oh, that's right. Yeah. Much more importantly, more seriously, the Rahal Letterman Lanigan team was raided yesterday morning by the FBI. Now, that is the fact in this situation. Everything past this point, for the most part, will be said with a big allegedly, because there are not a lot of details about this case right now, as it is an active case. It just came out. Now, we have a pretty good idea of what we believe the situation is, and what I'm going to try to do in this video is lay out the situation as best I can with the information that has been reported through other outlets and information that I have corroborated through my sources. We're also going to try to explain why the FBI is involved with this at all, because certainly that's something that I was confused about. And certainly when I heard about this yesterday afternoon, right before the news kind of broke to the public, I was concerned about what sort of a situation would necessitate the FBI being involved. As it turns out, and as was said by the FBI to local news, this is not a threat to the public, which means this is some sort of white-collar crime that they are investigating. And we'll go into specifically what has been alleged is the specific white-collar crime and who specifically brought this case to the FBI. And then we're also going to talk about the potential implications of having an FBI investigation surrounding a racing team. I mean, let's be honest, this is serious stuff, and it's with a team like Rahal, where you are potentially having to keep a major sponsor. There's some uncertainty with the drivers who are going to be driving for that team next year. This is the last thing you wanted if you're Rahal. I mean, it's the last thing anybody wanted. And I've said this a couple of times to some other people, but I mean, let's be really real about this situation before we start talking about it. There were some people yesterday was the worst day of their lives. It is some serious stuff when the federal government is involved in investigating you. And it's going to be a common theme through this video. The federal government isn't there to help you. This federal government is there. They ain't helping. They are only there to escalate and make the situation worse. And for some people yesterday, there's some bad things happening. So let's go to the Indiana Business Journal. This article specifically is written by Matt Weaver. It's probably the best aggregation that I've found of all of the information reported by the other outlets. So we'll go through this and kind of talk through the situation as we understand it right now, and I'll try to add some details as I can throughout this article. But certainly I'll link this one in the description if you want to read it yourself. And kudos to Matt for putting all this stuff together. So this, they raided the Rahal Letterman Lanigan shop, which is brand new for this year, at 8:30 yesterday morning. As I said, CBS 4 and Fox 59 broke the story, but I mean, let me tell you, this was all over the place yesterday afternoon in the IndyCar world. Agents instructed employees to leave computers and electronic devices in place and to leave the facility, and the FBI told them that there was no threat to the public. Now, here's where we get into allegedly situation, because Marshall Pruitt, Racer.com, reported that a senior engineer at Rahal had left the team and had left Andretti Global and was now at Rahal, and allegedly had transferred intellectual property while making that move. And the statement, which was released to a few different outlets from Rahal Letterman Lanigan, said this: "We are cooperating fully with the investigators. Given that this is an ongoing investigation, we are limited in what information we can share right now, but we intend to provide additional information as soon as we can." So the intellectual property thing is a huge point in this, and part of why I believe that the FBI is involved in it. Not the only reason that the FBI is involved, but there's a lot more that we need to delve into to kind of understand this situation. Zionsville Mayor John Sturr spoke to the Indiana Business Journal, and apparently the FBI requested assistance. They said, "We're going to raid this building. Do you need some cars?" But there was no other information given to the Zionsville Police Department specifically about that. And the final quote in this article that's super important is one that comes from the Racer article that was written by Marshall Pruitt, that says Andretti CEO Rob Edwards had no comment about the raid on Rahal Letterman Lanigan, although Racer said that the FBI visited the Andretti building in August over this same case. So clearly the FBI found something in the intellectual property, allegedly, of Rahal that they have now decided to investigate. So let's try to explain as best I can why the FBI is involved. Let's look at the FBI website, because one thing that they deal in, especially when you heard the quote about no threat to the public. So what does that mean? Well, that means they were most likely investigating a white-collar crime. The FBI claims that these crimes are not violent, but they're not victimless. White-collar crimes can destroy a company, wipe out a person's life savings, cost investors billions of dollars, and erode the public's trust in institutions. Specifically, when we're talking about this case, allegedly, is intellectual property theft / piracy. And the FBI says this: intellectual property theft involves robbing people and or companies of their ideas, inventions, and creative expressions, known as intellectual property. This can include everything from trade secrets to proprietary products to movies, music, and software. Intellectual property theft costs U.S. businesses billions of dollars each year. The FBI's intellectual property investigations focus on the theft of trade secrets and copyright infringement on product that can impact the people's health and safety, like counterfeit parts for cars and electronics. The FBI works with partners in the private sector and other law enforcement agencies, as you heard in the Indiana Business Journal article, at all levels to investigate these cases. Similarly, economic espionage costs the American economy. Well, this obviously, that's not true, because these are two U.S.-based racing teams going to war here. But there's a couple of key points in this particular explanation from the FBI, specifically when we're talking about ideas and inventions. I could see that either being something like a setup sheet, because obviously everybody runs the same Dallara chassis, right? It could be an invention. When we're talking about an invention, the only inventive thing on a Dallara DW12 chassis is the dampers, the shocks and springs. That is what the team has total control over, and most teams have an in-house damper program where they literally spend millions of dollars, if not tens of millions of dollars in some cases, to create the perfect dampers for their cars. It's something the public can't see. It's something the public generally doesn't care about, but boy, oh boy, do the teams care about it. And by the way, I'm not advocating that those parts should be spec, by the way. I'm just stating the facts. If you're going to have something non-spec, perhaps make it something that the fans see or care about, but I digress. Specifically, the FBI's jurisdiction includes counterfeit parts for cars and or electronics. So that says to me, if for some reason allegedly, this engineer brought some technology ideas, data, computer files, CAD drawings, whatever you could think about, to Rahal to produce the Andretti parts, allegedly. That would seem that would fall under the FBI's jurisdiction for that. It's interesting to me because I'm learning through this process. I've learned, what's interesting about being in IndyCar racing is that I've learned more about court and law enforcement that I ever thought I would have to learn. But here we are. So here's kind of the issue that I have with all of this, and something that I've thought about, because and I'm definitely going to be less harsh on this than I would have been had I not read this article and kind of understood where the FBI has interests and where they don't have interests. I was surprised to find out that the FBI is specifically the I guess enforcement agency for intellectual property. Now, someone has to call the FBI, right? Someone has to call the federal government on somebody else to resolve this situation. And like I said in the opening, the federal government generally doesn't solve problems, they escalate them, right? My interpretation of this situation is that it feels personal to me that the federal government would be involved in this way in this particular case. And I get it. I do understand. Based on many of those definitions that you've just heard, Andretti Global, allegedly, has spent tens of millions of dollars, probably hundreds of millions of dollars if you talk about the entire length of the Dallara DW12 program, and even before with the IRA5 and other iterations of IndyCar chassis, to develop these dampers. This is not inexpensive. This is very much proprietary technology. So this is very, very serious. There's no doubt about it, if this is allegedly what is the case. That Rahal has acquired some of this technology through these means. But if you think about it, this is a big step, a big step to involve the FBI because of headlines, that all of the headlines that have come out and all the headlines that are about to come out. Like I mentioned in the opening, this is going to have long-reaching implications for Rahal Letterman Lanigan one way or the other. They still have 2 seats to fill from a driver perspective. They are currently in negotiations to keep one of their title sponsors, Hy-Vee. If you believe many of the rumors in the paddock, the front runner to get Hy-Vee right now is not McLaren, it's not Rahal, it's Penske. Now, not necessarily going to Team Penske, but it's either going to be a sponsorship allegedly for Foyt, or it won't go to a team at all, and it will just, the Hy-Vee dollars will become more of a series sponsor races and other activations that Penske Entertainment does throughout the year. So if you're fighting to keep a sponsor, if you're fighting to keep or bring in 2 new drivers, and now you have an FBI investigation, an active FBI investigation, and all the headlines that are going along with it. This is a very, very difficult spot for this team to find itself in. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now, as the story develops, obviously, we're going to keep you abreast of it. I mean, obviously, this is a huge, huge story involving one of the legacy teams in IndyCar racing. And I'm not exactly sure how this is all going to end. So we'll keep it right here. I mean, obviously, it's almost a 6-month off season, right? We got plenty of time to talk about things like this because there ain't no cars on the damn racetrack. So, yeah, keep it right here. The drama seems to never end. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.